Well guys, sorry it's taken this long. As you might expect, I had plenty to say about Argentinosaurus, and so I spent plenty of time cutting things out to get things to a minimum. So here goes. I'll leave a bunch of references below for those of you interested to know more. Whenever there's a king of the hill, there will be challengers waiting to usurp that position. It's the case with T-Rex, and it's the case with Argentinosaurus. For years, Argentinosaurus was deemed the largest of the largest, and even the general public has heard of it. But pretenders to the throne will show up periodically, and one that actually had a big impact was 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲. Sizing of titanosaurs has always been problematic and often hyperbolic. Sauropods in general aren't extensively preserved, but with titanosaurs, it's at an even lower level. Many are known from but a few bones, and sizing attempts involve scaling preserved elements to estimate the size. Parts like the femur are hot favorites for staking a claim and have a big visual impact on the public consciousness. Now here's a general idea of what we have for Argentinosaurus. Excitingly, the holotype has 6 dorsal vertebrae, although without definitive agreement as to how they should be sequenced. Unfortunately, it lacks the limbs, but 2 important femurs are often referred to it. Now one is at the Museo Municipal Carmen Funes, and the other the Museo de la Plata. Now here's what we have for 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲. The holotype has the most material. We also have a few paratypes, which when scaled to the same size give us a good idea of its morphology, and certainly a more complete picture than Argentinosaurus. To understand the claim for 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 being bigger, we can go to the original 2017 paper and its supplementary material. Caballero et al. Based their reasoning on 2 main comparisons. In the supplementary paper, they detail their reasoning. Now first, whole skeleton volumetric approaches can't work because Argentinosaurus is too fragmentary. Scaling equations can't work because of the absence of femur and humerus in Argentinosaurus. They acknowledge the 2 femurs often referred to Argentinosaurus and used to estimate its size. But since the femur is completely absent in the holotype, they believe that these can't be confidently referred because there are no overlapping features in the holotype as comparison and confirmation points. Incidentally, I believe they may have mixed up the 2 specimens in their paper, but it's a moot point to their argument. So they make comparisons based only on the anterior dorsals, where there are overlapping preserved material. To compare 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 and other titanosaurs, they use 3 methods. When the transverse process, the spinous process, and centrum is present in the same numbered dorsal, they use total polygon area. They state that this method could not be used with Argentinosaurus because there are no same dorsals for which all elements are present in both animals. Where the processes are present in both but no centra, they use the second method, the dorsal polygon area. And finally, if the spinous process is missing, they use the third, which is the tip-to-tip horizontal distance between the left and right transverse processes. Now based on these comparisons, 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 wins out over Argentinosaurus. There have been many rebuttals, but I'll just pick the article from SVPOW by Dr. 𝗦𝗏, one of the most respected sauropod experts. He makes 2 comparisons between the 2 animals, the femoral midshaft circumference and the maximum dorsal centrum diameter. For the Museo de la Plata specimen, which is an incomplete femur, estimated to be 2.5 meters long by Mazzetta et al. 2004 when complete, the femoral midshaft circumference would be 118 centimeters. the 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 is smaller at 2.25 meters long according to Benson et al. 2014, and the midshaft circumference would measure 111.4 centimeters. The largest Patagotitan has a femur 2.38 meters long with a midshaft circumference of 101 centimeters. 118 is greater than 111.4, which is greater than 101 centimeters, so Argentinosaurus wins. Then, for the maximum dorsal centrum diameter, Argentinosaurus is 60 centimeters. Patagotitan is 59 centimeters. So again, 60 being greater than 59, Argentinosaurus wins. Dr. Weddell states that the claim made by 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 et al. Depends on spinous and transverse processes, which are less powerful indicators of size compared to the more weight-bearing parts supporting the animal mass, like the vertebrae centrum and femur. So these two being greater in Argentinosaurus suggests strongly it was still bigger. So then, back to 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 et al. Now regarding the femur, they have already rejected the referred specimens, so it didn't factor into their comparisons. Some critics have said that it doesn't matter even if the referred specimens don't belong to Argentinosaurus. One simply does not claim that Patagotitan is biggest because of that. But to be fair, that is not what they claim, at least in the paper. They very clearly acknowledge the presence of a sauropod in a Ŵyncŵ formation potentially larger than Patagotitan, just that it's not indubitably Argentinosaurus. And as for the vertebrae, based on their reasoning, it seems to make sense. However, I find a potential issue is that they used the dorsal sequence as suggested by the Powell and Salgado paper for their analysis, so this is D3 based on that paper. You can see that in different interpretations, the positions are mixed up like this. If you were to use D3 interpreted by Bonaparte and Correa, you'd find that D3 has a full transverse process, incomplete spinous process, but a nice juicy centrum. And this is important because the centrum is a stronger indicator compared to the elements in 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 et al., which aren't weight-bearing. So, Dr. Weddell takes a simpler approach, using the maximum centrum diameter in Argentinosaurus compared to the maximum in Patagotitan, which doesn't depend on natural sequencing of the dorsals. Now, Paul in 2019 proposed using a traditional method of building clay models that yield highly accurate volumetric models. His exact method you can read about in the paper. The long and short of it is that Paul confidently estimates Argentinosaurus to be 65 to 75 tons and Patagotitan 50 to 55 tons. As a matter of interest, Dreadnoughtus he models at 31 tons, Alamosaurus 27 tons, Giraffatitan at 32 tons. I asked Ademar about his decision to make Argentinosaurus bigger. In addition to Dr. Weddell's article, he considered the mathematical probability. Patagotitan is known from several individuals, so a bigger than average size may already be among them. We only have one Argentinosaurus, so it's closer to a random average. And since even then, Argentinosaurus have longer femurs and centra, so he decided that Argentinosaurus was indeed bigger. In the final analysis, as Dr. Weddell and many others have concluded, these animals were probably going to be roughly the same size, with overlaps and individuals topping absolute sizes at different times. And while it's generally accepted that Titanosaurs became the biggest of the big, there are hints that some non-Titanosaurian sauropods could be even bigger. Barosaurus could have matched the sizes of the largest Titanosaurs. In a 2023 paper by Paul and Larramendi, they estimate a Mamenchisaur to be 60 to 80 tons. 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲, formerly 𝗵𝗱𝑐𝑒lius fragilimus, if valid, might have been 80 to 120 tons. And finally, 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲 could have been as much as 170 tons, though they find it likelier to be between 110 to 130 tons. Incidentally, the day I dropped part 1 of this review, Vividan dropped a video exactly on sauropod sizes, so go check that out as well. So much for sizes, now the comparisons. First, of course, we have to have the 1:35 𝗦𝗲𝗏 No other comparison comes close. It's hard enough to fit even one of these on screen, but two together. You can see they aren't just clones of each other, but with differences in proportionality in different parts of the head. For example, the Argentinosaurus has a lower mandibular joint. The 𝗦𝗏𝗏 has a higher nostril. There's a slight differentiation in the lips. You can see the Argentinosaurus has a slightly thicker neck. You also see the longer and thicker torso in the Argentinosaurus. And by the way, Ademars improved the sculpting detail since my 𝗦𝗏𝗏, so any 𝗦𝗏𝗏 he releases now will also carry those new improvements. The tails are about the same size. Interestingly, the 𝗦𝗏𝗏 has a wider tail base. True central 𝗦𝗏𝗏 is 96 centimeters, representing 33.6 meters or 110.2 feet. The Argentino is 103 centimeters, representing 36 meters or 118.1 feet. And also in the huge category, here's the very old PNSO 黄河 Titan. Still holding its own after so many years. And it's so light. In the big category, here's the very recent 1:35 𝗦𝗨𝗨𝗮. As big as it is, you can see it looks small compared to our star today. Then the W dragon Giraffa Titan. The Nanmu Watchman Brachiosaurus. The Haolonggu Apatosaurus. The Rewar Diplodocus. In middling size, we have the PNSO Alamosaurus. Such a pity, I really love those proportions. Then the Collectae Ruyangsaurus. Now the Wingul Formation is known for bringing forth the largest of the large, so we need to bring out the PNSO 1:35 Giganotosaurus and the PNSO 1:35 𝗦𝗶𝘇𝗲. And since we're on predators, let's have the PNSO T-Rex Wilson and the PNSO Cameron. And just on size, let's bring out this PNSO Nanotyrannus. Again, to emphasize just how huge these animals were. So that's it for Ademars Argentinosaurus. It was a very long video, perhaps befitting of the biggest Titanosaur. And it was actually over an hour, but I had to leave lots of stuff on the cutting floor. To say that the 1-35 Argentinosaurus was an impossible dream is hardly an exaggeration. We all know how things were going for sauropods just 2 years ago. And to fantasize that the biggest of the big would ever be made in 1-35 and sold for a reasonable price, let alone decide on your own colors, that would have been delusional. Era Terra did it with Patagotitan, and now it's done so with Argentinosaurus. Who knows what's next? Now obviously, there are some nice Titanosaurs with good remains, but I wonder if Ademar would do some huge non-Titanosaurs. If he ever makes a 1-35 Barosaurus, I'm saving up for that one. Alright, take care, let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.